To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. Okay, I'm back at the tiny house build again today. Of course, I'm not going to be here very long because I got to go get 2x4s from Home Depot to build the rafters. And I'm going to get into more into that in just a minute. Right now, we've been working on this since March, but the biggest thing we had to do was get supplies, materials. And we were spending $500 a month. This house is going to cost us $5,000 or less. We're actually quite a bit under budget. The floor we got done for just under $200. We had a lot of used 2x4s that we were able to use for the floor. And then we bought the 2x6s, which were full price. I mean, those were pretty expensive. We got the OSB really cheap, I think under $8, might have been $7 per sheet. We got that from a guy who had been storing it for like 20 years. We got the insulation, which we didn't really need at the time, but she found a really good bargain on Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace. And that'll cover all the walls and some of the attic. She got that for half price. The last few weeks, I don't know, 12 videos or so, I've been able to build the walls. Of course, I had this wall and this wall already built. But I couldn't do anything further until I got those walls raised. What I needed to do was I needed to wait for house wrap, which is this material right here. I ordered it and it took forever for it to be delivered. It was delivered FedEx and it took like 2 or 3 weeks. At that point, I began to wonder, maybe I should have just went to Home Depot and bought it. My goal was to save a little money, not having to drive all the way out there and all the way back because it was free shipping. We finally got it, so I was able to put the house wrap on those 2 walls and get those raised up. And the reason that was important was I didn't want the walls to get wet if it rained and that OSB just disintegrate. The floor, I was able to cover up with a tarp, and then I was able to really hustle. I had everything I needed, we could just get going. And then I got this wall completed over here, then this one, and I built them in sections. So they're basically 2 8-foot sections. You can see the seam right here. That's a jack stud for the header of the window. So these 2 boards is 2 different walls, and so I raised them up individually. And then I came over here and did the same thing. Again, another jack stud. So this is 2 separate walls raised up individually. Now you gotta remember, I'm working about 3 hours a day doing this. And it's really going up quick doing that. Now, of course, I come up in the evening for about an hour, but that's just a little detail work, like taping the house wrap with Tyvek tape. For those who keep asking, what is Tyvek tape? Tyvek, T-Y-V-E-K, I think it is, Tyvek. It's a name brand, house wrap, Tyvek house wrap, where you can get the tape also. So today, what I gotta do is I got to make sure that my idea is right. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna draw out on the floor basically the rafter shape. I've got 2 2x4s that I can work with, and I'm gonna lay them down and I'm gonna get my measurements, make sure that my measurements are correct. I've got a drawing that I'm using that I found online, but I wanna make sure that what I'm seeing on the paper translates to the floor. My concern is I buy all this lumber and then I realize, oops, I've made a mistake. I should have bought a 12-foot 2x4 instead of an 8-foot 2x4. A lot of questions have been asked about the roof, like the pitch and all that. Okay, so the gable is going to be 3 feet high. It's not going to be very high. So that gives me about a 4:12 ratio, which means that every 12 inches, you're going to see a pitch of 4 inches. That gives me an 18-degree angle. Now, I know people are gonna say, oh, that's not gonna hold the snow, it's not gonna hold the snow. I've looked online, there's all kinds of snow weight, pitch calculators. Is 2x4 gonna work for that pitch and for your area? How much snow do you get normally? I went up to 30 inches of snow on this pitch on those calculators, and it kept saying I was fine, no worries. The biggest snowstorm that we've ever had, and I was a kid, was 24 inches here in Missouri. And now I live further south in Missouri than I did then. The second biggest snow was about 2 years ago that I've been through, and that was 20 inches. So, I mean, I don't have any concerns that we're gonna get this Alaska snowstorm. And if we do, then you just gotta do what most people do, and you just sweep the snow off the roof. We can overthink this and overbuild it till we're just out of our price range. So that will give us an attic space of about 3 feet. So obviously that is not a habitable area to live in, but we are going to store things in it, primarily canned goods, maybe some clothes. And I'm not really sure where I'm going to put the hole to get into the attic. I'm thinking actually just kind of maybe putting it right up here in front of the door or in front of this window, and then just getting a ladder and scooting up there every now and then. I'm thinking about putting my breaker box up there. Now, when I say breaker box, you got to understand, a lot of people keep getting all upset about my electricity. I'm going to have like 2 outlets. We'll probably have one on this wall and one on the other side. I live on solar panels, so we don't use a lot of electricity. We're going to leave the refrigerator down there, so we don't even have to bring it up because it draws so much power. I don't want to have to buy, 2-gauge wire and run it up here. If we can just leave it down there and worry about powering it off the inverter down there, all the better. We only go down to the fridge once a day anyways. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out from this wall 3 feet because my pitch is 3 feet. And then I'll lay a 2x4 where 3 feet is, right there. And then I can take my other 2x4 and I can look at the angle to make sure that I got enough 2x4 left over that I get the overhang, because I'm going to have a 1-foot overhang off the sides of the roof so water doesn't drip down onto the wall. Okay, so this is the drawing. That was a challenge to get. I don't have a printer. I'm not going to buy a printer, but Dad's got a printer, so I asked him to print it off. I emailed him the drawing. He printed it off and mailed it to me. Well, the mailman just pulled up just now, so I got my drawing printed off. So that's the design of it. All right, so now I've got the 3 feet measured out. You saw me draw a little line on the floor there. So now I'm just going to run a chalk line. Then I'll put my 2x4 next to the chalk line, and then I can start doing my measurements for the angles. Okay, so I'm going to put some screws next to the board to hold it in place. I'm not going to drill through the board, but I'll put them right next to the board. That way if I kick it, it won't move around on me. Okay, now I can kick the board and it doesn't move around too much. Now the next step is I'm going to measure center, which is 6 feet, because bottom rafter is going to be 12 feet long. So 6 feet is half of that. And so I'm going to connect 2 boards together, 2 6-foot boards. I'm not sure, I might use an 8-foot board and a 4-foot board. Whatever the case is, that's what I'm going to do is I'll connect it using another 2x4 or gossip plates or whatever you want to call them. Okay, this is called a carpenter square. Now I know that a lot of people decided it was a framing square, but if you Google it, it's got different names. Actually, there's different companies that call it different things, carpenter square, framing square. Anyway, what this does is it squares up your 2x4s like you just saw me do. If there's any daylight in between the board and the framing square, then you know you're not square. Okay, so now you should be able to start to see some semblance of a rafter. So you can see the pitch and the bottom board. And so now I have my angles. I know exactly what I need. You can see that I actually have 16 inches of overhang. So this would be the wall coming down. This is the overhang. So then all I would have to do is duplicate it on the other side. I should be able to just reverse it, mirror image it. I can cut one board and then take it to the other side and cut the other board. That way they'd be absolutely identical. Okay, now for those who say, oh Rob, that's not enough angle, you're gonna need more angle. Well, if you look at a mobile home trailer, in like the mobile home trailer parks, they don't have much of a pitch at all. I mean, it's just kind of rounded a little bit. And to be clear, those are made out of 2x2s. I hope I can inspire you to be happy and create something today. Thanks for watching.